Greetings. Now, this video is going to be a little bit different because most of the content on this channel is about how technology has increased standard of livings or has fixed what used to be difficult problems or otherwise has greatly increased the efficiency of various activities that people want to conduct. But just to be as balanced as possible, once in a while we have to show examples of how technology has failed to improve people's standards of living or fix some problem that everyone faces, and in some cases has worsened that problem. And that does not mean the problem will not improve later. It's just that the technologies that were available and got implemented into the solution to this problem ended up worsening the problem and perhaps taking it further away from a more productive solution. And today we're going to look at such an example. Now, what you see on the screen here is an article I wrote almost 5 years ago in November of 2016. And I noticed something, at least in regards to the United States, is how job searches that people conduct take longer than they did 30 years prior. And now, since this article was almost 5 years ago, let's say 35 years prior. So why did job searches take longer than they took in the 1980s? You would think that with things like the internet and emails in which you can send attachments and LinkedIn and all sorts of other tools at your disposal, job searches would in fact be faster than they were back when you only had fax machines. You did not even have laser printers. Your resumes had to be typed on a typewriter, and if you made a typo, that was a much more inconvenient thing than it is with a word processor and a laser printer. And you often had to send resumes via the snail mail process and spend money on stamps and such, and on expensive high-quality resume paper as well. So what happened? All these technologies that are supposed to make information search and matching up of buyer and seller of anything much more efficient, as has occurred in everything else, why has that not reduced job search times? As it stands right now, many people, especially corporate level people who are looking for corporate jobs, it takes them maybe 9 to 12 months to find a new position. And that's crazy because that's longer than it used to take several decades ago, as I mentioned. So what are the reasons for this, and where has technology failed? So then I proceed to this section where it says cultural inertia obstructs technology. And I'm just going to read these 3 paragraphs straight, and so I'll hide my face. Before the internet age, if you wanted to research a subject, you had to go to the library, spend hours there, check out some books, and go back home. Overall, this consumed half a day and could only be conducted during the library's hours of operation. If the books did not have all the information you needed, you had to repeat this process. Even this was available only in the dozen or so countries that had good public libraries in the first place. But now, in the internet age, the same research can be conducted in mere minutes from any location. The precision of Google and other search engines continues to improve, and many improvements are self-propagating. There is a 10x to 3x increase in the productivity of searching for information. If you feel this example is imprecise, take the case of LinkedIn. It has enabled many aspects of career research and networking that were just not possible before. If a young person wishes to explore dozens of career paths and estimate common patterns, the utility of a certain degree, or the probability of reaching a certain title, LinkedIn has an endless supply of information and people you can identify and communicate with. Yet despite all this, job searches are just as lengthy as in the days before the internet, LinkedIn, and other resources. If a candidate can match with 3 potential jobs in their search region at any given time, then the connection between the employer and candidate should take mere weeks, not close to a year. There's no other widespread transaction within society that takes anywhere near as long. Despite new apps to organize the job search and new social media outlets that announce endless meetups and networking events, technology has clearly failed to generate any productivity gains in this process. And that is certainly the truth. This chart, which because it's in the article ends in late 2015, but if we continue it, you'll still see that the average duration of unemployment keeps rising. This is the internet age. All transactions are supposed to be faster. All matchups between buyer and seller are supposed to be faster. Yet the average transaction time is rising, meaning the duration of unemployment is rising. Despite the fact that you send resumes over the internet rather than through snail mail, despite the fact that LinkedIn shows you exactly who is in what title at what company and which people have which degrees and which degrees have people reaching what level. despite all this, it is taking longer, not shorter, to find a job. And the problem is, in addition to cultural inertia, the wrong types of technology got into the wrong place. So-called recruiters and other HR professionals, they look for keyword optimizations that match a certain set of buzzwords in a job description, and therefore they don't select for the right candidates. And therefore the hiring manager knows that there is a relatively low probability of the interview actually vetting a candidate properly. So they try to reduce this risk by having the candidate interview multiple times and with as many people in the organization as possible. But that does not create a more precise assessment at all. And the interview process drags on. And even then, even after they hire someone, what is the rate of each hire being a good hire? Maybe 50% at most. So the process is just completely broken and completely inefficient. And this is harmful to both the employer and the candidate. The employer cannot fill a vacancy for months and months on end, and the candidate is unemployed and therefore demoralized, and all the massive psychological damage associated with that goes on for a longer and longer time. It is crazy. But the cultural inertia, combined with the wrong types of keyword search capabilities, continues to exacerbate this problem even in 2021. And where is artificial intelligence? One of the main use cases of artificial intelligence was to create more precise and virtually immediate matches between candidates and employers. An AI would see in an organization what the real vacancy is, identify the vacancy long before the process of approving a requisition, getting budget for it and everything, which could take months and months, and find candidates out there that could match the vacancy and even give a score. Say that this candidate is an 85% fit, this candidate's a 92% fit, and so forth. It should be reliable enough that an offer can be extended based on this compatibility assessment right away. It's not the most challenging technological problem, one would think, in the age of advanced search engines and at least artificial intelligence that matches up thousands of parameters. You would think that, but alas, that is not the case. If you told people in 1989 that somehow job searches would actually take much longer in 2021, despite all these magnificent information technologies that have lowered the time and cost of every other type of transaction or research endeavor, they would find that odd. Remember that most employers are still in the habitual practice of assuming that a university degree somehow correlates to qualification for a job, even though, as we know, universities have deviated so much from the basic premise of preparing people for careers that the credential is meaningless in terms of an indicator of job performance subsequent to graduation. Yet employers are too afraid to deviate from this requirement, and therefore the entire outdated practice continues to perpetuate, even though degrees and job performance have a poor correlation and employers continue to learn that the hard way. Ultimately, the solution has to reside within a more advanced rethinking of technology. As I described earlier, you have to take an artificial intelligence approach that studies the internals of a corporation and the emails sent by members of a particular department that indicate where there might be a gap in the organization and a possible need for someone to come in and generate the requisition around the missing needs, and that should happen dynamically in real time, and then find people that match that requisition also at the speed of internet search and give a compatibility score so that there can be a minimal interview with the hiring manager to see if there's some interpersonal connection. But just interviewing the old-fashioned way based on resumes is obviously a very, very wasteful and low correlation activity. It has to be replaced by an AI that an employer can rely on as an accurate predictor of fit. And only then will the old, outdated, and inefficient practices eventually fall by the wayside. So that is something to think about, because this is the single biggest hidden cost in the economy today. So there's some food for thought to think about. If you've ever been in a lengthy job search that seemed like it was going on for too long and that you had despair about whether you would ever get a good job again, or if you've been a hiring manager who just couldn't find the right candidate for months and months and months and months on end. Either way, this is a problem you have probably directly experienced. Think about it. If you like this type of content, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, and thank you very much for watching.